Hi, thank you for having me in these crazy times. My name is Nelly Kalu. I'm a broadcast journalist. When I heard that I was going to talk to you about gender and feminism and how far Nigeria has come with it, I was a little unsure because I do not consider myself an authority on feminism or sexual politics. I am what I consider a student of the movement, one who imagines someday having a conversation with Gloria Steinem and Chimamanda Adichie. Now, having said this, I am here as a woman and a broadcaster, and I'll be speaking to you in that capacity. As a child, I was a dreamer, and if I'm honest, I still am. I have lived 1,000 lives in my head, and I've seen various versions of myself in every scenario of my dreams, all in my head, any scenario I chose. In my dreams, my life is full. I was no different from any other young girl in any part of the world. We began to daydream early, creating this fantasy world where we, reign and become more dominant in. I realized that it is because our limitations and our possibilities are impressed upon us from the moment we're able to string together the first few words and the first few coherent sentences. Even then, we knew that we can become anything. And whatever we want to be will only happen with the help of everyone around us. But becoming what they want us to be means that we get to be accepted by them. Some girls dreamed of Prince Charming as the English storybooks teach us, while others dreamed of a wonderful wedding. I, on the other hand, dreamed of owning my world. This is a gated society in my dream scenario where I lived by my own rules. In this dream scenario, I ran an independent corporation, employing my friends who, of course, lived in this world which I created. I was 7. Of course, I did not know what an independent corporation was. I wasn't a genius. I even called it Nelly's World. Even till today, I still do not know how to name a thing. And this feels like a lifetime ago. There is no corporation, not yet anyway, but I do try to live by my own rules. This choice to live by my own terms, to live on my own terms, is considered a major feat for a woman in Nigeria. Every woman looks at me with this conflicted admiration, the kind that says, I wish I could be brave as you, but you'd probably die alone. However, to achieve these dreams, I need basic security, the kind that only my country can provide. I need education. I need financial independence, without which my choices are marriage and marrying up. I need healthcare. Maternal mortality would likely be the end of my dreams without it. In 2014, the Supreme Court made a landmark ruling that allows an Igbo woman to inherit from the paternal line. This ruling established precedents for another in August that allows a woman the right to her father's inheritance. Some traditional leaders called this an intrusion in the Igbo way of life. However, this is pivotal for me because I am an Igbo woman. 2 years ago, my brother suggested that we invest in agriculture, starting a large farm in our village and employ the local women. I was all for it. It ticked all the boxes: women empowerment, agriculture, diversification. Why not? Then I found out that in my village, I am unable to own land unless the males in my family gifted me one. Even then, the property remains in their name. Well, look at that. So much for my corporate dreams. Now, my friend Fola Folayo says she would like to become the Director General of the NBC someday, the National Broadcasting Commission, which recently now looks like the gag man of free press in Nigeria. All I do is laugh whenever she says this. It isn't impossible, and she might be the only woman in that position at the national level since it's 28 years since. I laugh because I see what it would mean and how hard it will be for her. How hard it already is to be a female broadcaster in this our beloved country. Now let me tell you about being a female broadcaster in Nigeria. My radio career began in 2010 on a music station. There were a few presenters, many of whom were sidekicks to famous male hosts. Those who weren't just seemed to disappear after a few years. but that was not the part for me. So I researched and studied myself on air. I had several sleepless nights. I would call on my friends and talk unendingly about my prospects and sound off on my possible decisions. Who was I? What was my value on a mic? The moment I was able to answer these two questions, I quit. I decided that it was time for talk radio. So I moved to NigeriaInfo FM, where I like to think that I grew up. You see, being a sidekick and echoing the words of and actions of what the male host says was the norm. You were the sweet little voice in the room, but I was never a sidekick. And entertainment is non-threatening, really. Try talk radio. Try having a voice and a brain on radio in 2013. NigeriaInfo FM was the first time in a long time the Nigerian audience heard female anchors with opinions on air, saying them boldly and unapologetically, questioning everything that passes. Everything. And they weren't sidekicks. They were running the show, and it was maddening. In 2013, there were 7 females and just 3 male hosts. And we had male callers who were unfamiliar with being told that their loud opinions were wrong and that they couldn't go on talking forever on radio. Oh goodness, it created monsters in the audience. At first, they would try complaining to our male colleagues on air, expecting that they will rein us in. When that didn't work, they decided to handle it themselves. They called us Antichrist, devils whose feminism will bring about the end of the world. Some of this they reserved for me. Witch, Antichrist, prostitute, and lesbian. These are not insulting when you think about it. A person can be Antichrist, but pro-Buddha, for instance. Intelligent women have been called witches as far as the Salem witch trials. So we turned it around and owned it. We started a radio show called The Coven. It was simply a show with unapologetic, opinionated women who owned their voices. And really, I think we should legalize sex work. People ask me how I got them to stop and how the Nigeria info that you experience today came to be. It was because we established ownership. I was in charge here. I decided what we discussed, what was allowed, and where we go from here. But it was also a teachable moment, not just for me, but for our male listeners. For every punch we took, it hit really harder. Every time I was called a prostitute, I talked about consent and safe sex. For every time they said lesbian, I talked about LGBTQ rights and freedom. I demanded respect. They also learned constructive words and how to apologize. They learned a compliment could be patronizing. They would even caution newbie misogynists who dared to misbehave, all the while acknowledging that I did not need their help. What this experience taught me is that true equity and equality is a war fought on resilience, authority, perseverance, and elimination. The more resilient the message is, the more universal its acceptance, even when progress is slow. But it should never be this hard. It is in fact wrong for it to be this difficult. Many of these men changed, and more progressive male callers became normal. It simply became that those who couldn't change disappeared. I believe these changed men are those we call allies today. However, I do not believe in allies for feminism and equality, especially when it seems the modern thing to be. Alliances form when people need to join forces towards a common goal. Don't get me wrong, the path to equality is a long drawn-out battle, but it's also a choice of right and wrong. It is a stand for good and evil. I refuse to give a badge to a father who treats his daughter equal as his son, or a boss who gives his staff equal pay. It's either right or wrong, and every man's choice should be clear to him. I've never believed in allyship towards equality of feminism or to push global equity. I think it allows for performative feminism or performative support of unpopular ideas, which really should be normal and popular because it's fair. Let me give you some context. Onimisi OJ Adaba was my boss in Nigeria Info, and I gave him headaches. But he has proven to be irreplaceable. I am here today because he let me shine. He let the strength of my voice be heard. Even when he had to bear the consequences for my authenticity, he ignored every request to control me. Why is she so bold, they'll ask. Why is she so blunt? That's so unprofessional. Yet will I call OJ an ally? No, he doesn't need to be called one. He knew that his male and female anchors were equal, no question. He did what he believed to be right. Equality, equity, and fairness. For me, it is not something you're either for or against. It is not a debate. It is either wrong or right, good or bad. The concept of the good versus the bad should be quite familiar to a highly religious society such as ours. Yet it is something that we struggle to understand. It is in the way a father raises his daughters. It is in the way that my father let me contribute to conversations and allow my voice be heard. It is in the way that his friends let me debate them on varying issues so that I grew up with a voice. You can either choose to hear a woman or silence her. It is not a debate. And this defines what it means to be a Nigerian woman. Nigeria has one of the lowest rates of female representation in parliament across Africa and globally. It ranks 181st out of the 193 countries, according to the International Parliamentary Union. In the current Nigerian Ninth Assembly, women occupy 7 out of 109 Senate seats and only 11 out of 360 seats in the House of Representatives. Nigeria is far behind Ethiopia, Rwanda, and South Africa. Now here's another record for you. Nigeria recorded the Child Rights Act in 2003. Now this act, among other things, protects our young girls from underage marriage. Another area where we rank so high, we just put every other country to shame. 17 years on, 12 states are yet to adopt this act. During the lockdown weeks, Nigeria recorded astronomical rise in domestic violence just between March and April. According to the UN, it was 56% in the first 2 weeks alone. This is what it means to be a woman in Nigeria. It means making up more than 50% of the informal labor force without any support or government policies to advance my development, all the while suffering double taxation. It means dominating the agricultural sector, but relegated to subsistence farming with crude tools. It means poor maternal health, and it means making up 38% of Nigeria's out-of-school children, another area where we dare the world to catch up on us. But it also means that we turn things around by resilience and amplifying our voices. It falls on the journalists to seek and demand female representation in all of Nigeria. And we cannot be effective at this if we do not stand for the same in our industry. To get better representation at national level, we need to be intentional in covering female politicians, amplify their voices, and eliminate these trophy seats. In 2015, Remi Shonaya was the only woman on the ballot for the Nigerian election. That in itself was unprecedented. Yet, I remember saying on radio that I will not be voting for a woman just because she's a woman. Even though today I still stand by that, I should have done the work. I should have educated myself and my listeners on why she's more than just a woman on a ballot. What made her different from her other female politicians? I will never be making such a mistake again. The media knew that she couldn't stand a chance in this country, but we should have amplified her voice more than we did. That is only fair. Fairness and equity are right, and that is our role in the media. That is how women in the media will find equality. We must be intentional in gender parity, telling the stories that no one else will, and tell it until people begin to listen. As a broadcast trainer with Broadcast Radio Masterclass, I vet scholarship applications, and the thing that stands out for me is a lack of effort and commitment in the female applicants. We must encourage our young women to apply themselves, to put in the work as men do. Let us earn our place. Let us not depend on a quota system that offers us a seat. We need to grab those seats, learn, read, train. Give no one an excuse to shut the door on you. There's so many women breaking ceilings and the cards are already stacked against us, but we need to keep the windows of our minds ready and alert for the slightest crack in our individual and collective ceilings. I have been called many things, but my favorite are stubborn and rude. I stubbornly hold on to my values and beliefs that fairness knows no gender and race no orientation. I am impolite in living on my terms. I hold on to my dreams and values. I am inspired by my mother's resilience as she holds on to hers at 60 despite sacrificing them to marriage and children. As Remi Shonaya once said, don't be afraid to be different. Don't get sucked in the prevailing corrupt system which needs to be changed. I remember fondly the 7-year-old who wanted a world of her own, to be free. I build that world every way, in every given day. Now, I promised that I was going to say this, so thank you for coming to my TED Talk.